Hi, I'm Andre J, and today I'd like to talk to you about demo mode. Not quite, but I'm going to be showing you some fun stuff in that I do with gravity waves using camera feedback. Oh yeah, here's the moment. Just check this out. Yeah, so that's not exactly what I wanted to show you, but that's one of the cool things I really liked is when I'm doing camera feedback here, and I've got this, and it goes into demo mode every 15 minutes or so. And then it'll just say like text, and I really like it when it has the text on the screen. And then you go out of the demo mode and come back into normal camera mode, and it does with this specific patch I have here on gravity waves. It looks really cool. I'll talk more about this specific patch on gravity waves, but first I just want to say, if you're watching this in a timely manner, gravity waves, this is the 2-channel video mixer dual video delay line I have designed. This is on sale in November and December 2023 for shipping in spring 2024. If you've seen any of the other gravity wave stuff I have out there, you've got a pretty good idea of what's going on. This is the second sale I've done with this. First one was for Kickstarter 1 year ago. Very successful. This next set of sales, not quite so successful. Have a number of theories why, but it's all good. But probably one of the reasons it's not so successful is I haven't been very online this year. All of you who've been following my YouTubes and are just like, where the fuck did everything go? Yeah, I've been traveling. I thought I had the right kind of equipment and technology with me to do more video recording, make more YouTube stuff while I was on the road, but that did not happen, and I do apologize for that, but I think I've got things figured out a little bit better now to be able to have a more mobile production setup for future travels, and there will be future travels, so that's a good thing. But yeah, I will be somewhat sedentary for the winter time in order to do another set of development on gravity waves and to do another set of builds of these. I'm also selling Wavepool HD, which I'm not going to talk about in this video other than saying Wavepool HD. If you buy gravity waves, you will get the master boot option of running Wavepool HD, Artificial Life HD, and Temporal Vortex HD on your setup. So that's 4 cents for the price of one. What a deal. And that's not all. That's actually pretty much it. Excuse me. You can purchase, get your pre-order of Gravity Waves in through my website. That'll be in a link in the description of this video. But yeah, it kind of struck me, and it probably struck a lot of you too, that I didn't, the usual thing I do with the video since I make is like 1 million incredibly long, rambling YouTube videos to discuss them. I didn't really do that with gravity waves, and that's because it was a lot of fucking work, and I was also moving out of my apartment at the same time that I was building, designing, putting together the giant manual. So that's why there isn't a absolute ass ton of content of gravity wave stuff on this YouTube, but hoping to sort of fix that up and get more gravity wave stuff, demos, tutorials, and whatnots out there. So I'm going to start off with this gravity waves tutorial when I want to talk about this very specific mode I figured out. One of the things I did while I was traveling is me and Paloma Cop had a residency at Coaxial in Los Angeles. If you've never heard of Coaxial before, it's a video art-centered art space and performance space in pretty much right in downtown Los Angeles, so very safe and respectable neighborhood. No, it's a really great spot. And I did a video while Paloma did audio for that performance. We also set up a bunch of installations as well. Did a really cool transformation of the space, and we're really happy with how everything turned out. And we would just like to thank everyone, Coaxial, Ava, Brock, Chloe, K.A., Rain, and I'm not sure if I'm forgetting anyone else. I might be, I don't know. but those are the folks whose names I had in contact and we directly interacted with. But yeah, I was doing some video recording and sharing some stuff from the process of putting together stuff, and I came up with this really interesting mode, which I'm calling, I guess, camera feedback vector mode, and I'd like to explain a little bit about what I'm doing here. Oh yeah, and also I'm using gravity waves. This video is being mixed right now with gravity waves, as you'll see as the video progresses and I make this more and more insane. But yeah, I'm not using, I'm recording the end thing on OBS, but all of the mixing you see, this is gravity waves, that is gravity waves. And I'll start to mix some delay into my face later on in this video. But yeah, camera feedback vector mode. What's going on here? So the two inputs I have for gravity waves right now, I'm using just a Logitech USB camera. That's my face right here. I do that for very simple things if I just need to be a talking head floating in the space. So this would make it very good for like streaming kind of setups. If you want to also have your talking head have 4 seconds of delay on it at some point in your thing, which I'm going to do. The other input is I have like a Sony Handycam from like the, I think 2000s or 2010 or something maybe, and have that pointed at a LCD television, and I have a Vidicraft, the good old Vidicraft Vidimate as a video processor. Not really anything super special happening with the processor other than I'm pulling all of the color out of the video. So I'm completely desaturating the video. And let me mix out, so I've got feedback happening right now, and let me pull that out of the chain so we can just see this is what the video looks like coming in. So here's just the camera feedback. I've got black and white camera feedback happening. I'm a little defocused on the camera, and I've got a little bit of the sharpen happening on the Vidimate, so that's how come I can get this sort of like slow and kind of goopy, blobby feedback that still has some texture on the edges here. And as you can see, my camera is not perfectly pointed up with the screen, so it's got a little bit of angle on there. So that's how come I'm getting a little bit of this sort of like slightly diagonal blobs happening. And so what's going on with this setup is I have, so this is going into block 2. Camera feedback is going into block 2 here. I have frame buffer 2 delay time at 11. I have, I'm just on Luma key mode, so I have key red, key blue, key green, all set to 1. So this is white key mode, and I go into key threshold and I bring that up to about 0.4. So you can see as I bring it up, I'm going to bring it up a little bit higher, maybe like 0.5. So about halfway. And you can see I'm keying out the inside of the feedback. So and I'm kind of moving the camera around right now, it's just picking up the outside edges of where the feedback is at, and just kind of like capturing those lines. So that's why I'm getting these like really crazy sort of vector trail patterns. I'm just keying into the feedback, so I can kind of like it'll write over itself and it'll erase itself once it goes over it. And it's just keeping track of like where the edges are. So that's how I'm getting these really kind of like, looks sort of to me like old school vector graphics where they do the fake 3D kind of stuff. So I'm not displacing the feedback at all. I'm not doing anything else with the frame buffer 2 other than just like keying it in and setting a long delay time. And that's how I'm getting this like really nice, finely textured feedback edges. So some cool things you can do with this setup. Of course, just like moving around the where the camera is positioned is always going to be pretty good. I found this one out was pretty nice, where you just kind of like do a faster zoom in, and then you get these kind of trails going like that. You want to make sure you set it up properly so it kind of like fills the whole screen, but this was something I did in the performance a lot, and would just kind of like use that as like a good transition of like, make sure the feedback's kind of right in the center, and then have it try to fill the whole screen. and then fade out and go into another mode from there. So that was pretty cool. Some other pretty nice stuff you can do with this mode, feedback vector mode. And this is without even going into the gravity waves too much, is I'm going to add a little bit of saturation into there. So we'll bring a little bit of color in, and we can see that's adding color into the outlines. So I'm getting, instead of a white line, I'm getting this like nice aquamarine line. Really, really cool. And of course, your results may vary depending on your screen and what kind of lens you've got, what kind of sensor you've got. But this is pretty sick. Let's see, as I turn it up or down, we can kind of have some of that blue stay in there and then bring it back to the white lines. And as I sort of bring up and down the sharpness, we get more texture on the outside, and we get some more of these kind of like the good old-fashioned worms. You don't want to get too noisy with this. It's nice to have like a lot of like big blobs, because you can see the more worms I have, the busier it is, the harder it is to see everything. So I turn that back down. I can go into the focus here. And defocus it a little bit. So basically what I want is these sort of like crisp, clear edges. So I kind of erase a bit of things here. And as I kind of move things around, just really tiny camera movements, I'm able to find kind of a sweet spot where you get a really clean edge and just kind of like slowly move things around. It's also kind of like, seems to me like, sort of like Scanimate style animation, or even just like straight up like stop motion-y animation kind of thing, with this like really clean line work like that. As you sort of like move the feedback around, you get these really interesting like ribbed patterns. It looks very geological at times. So yeah, that's pretty sick. I was a huge fan of this mode, and it's something I want to explore more variations on as I get more chances to do live performances and whatnot. Oh yeah, might as well put some more like general promotional information in here. So yeah, probably a lot of people who have heard about gravity waves have heard, oh yes, it's very confusing and complicated. Also, there's no save states, and it's hard to control. Yep, that's pretty true. Although I have personally used this at multiple performances, live performances this year, so I know it is definitely possible to use gravity waves as a live performance device. But yeah, it's a little tricky to replicate things, which is why I am definitely 100% putting save states into the update. I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer. I'm also going to put MIDI macros in, so you can kind of select out of all the parameters for a specific save state, what do you want to control this time around. So you'll have 16 parameters to choose from, and you could map multiple things per single parameter to do that. So that's what else is going on with the updates. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to make too many like big system changes, because I feel like most people haven't even really scratched the surface of what's going on gravity waves yet, including me. So there's not really any big overhaul things that need to happen that I can see. I'll probably send out some polls and see if there's any little like tweaks people are really looking for that are easy to put in there. But yeah, no big system changes other than just like optimizing it for live performance and for replicability. Yeah, I think one person said like basically it's like the worst of both worlds, digital and analog, where like it's like you have your big like analog patch thing, and you have to like repatch every time from scratch. So it's kind of like that, unless you have your patch manager around, and the patch manager is just me. Just invite me over to your house and stay on your couch, and I'll help you remember how to do everything in gravity waves. Okay, so what else can we do with this specific mode? I'm going to let the camera feedback just kind of do what it's going to do, but then we'll do some very simple stuff in the block 3. So I'm going to go into block 3. So block 1, that's my head right here. Block 2 is the camera feedback. I'm going to go into block 2 geometry, and I'm just going to do the very simple horizontal mirror. And now we've got this pretty crucial mode where you get like, so this isn't mirroring the feedback. So important to note is that, so the in block 3, all we're doing is mirroring the output of block 2. Block 2 is where the feedback is happening, meaning that like we can do kind of whatever we want within block 2, and it's just going to do like a straight up mirror of that output. So this is going to be very different from what it would look like if I mirrored in block 2 itself. Actually, let me just like show you what goes on in there. So if I go into block 2 and mirror things, so let's say I mirror the feedback, go on to block 2 geometry. So you can see if I mirror the feedback, I don't quite get the same thing. If I go into block 2 input and mirror the input, again, don't quite get the same thing. What I do want to do is go into block 3 and just do the post-processing mirroring. That's what I want to do here. And that's kind of, I think, where Gravity Waves really shines, is all of this feedback post-processing things. And that's the one thing that's not going to be able to happen inside of Wavepool HD, unless you take Wavepool HD and put it into Gravity Waves, which I will definitely be doing. Watch out for that in future videos. So we can do, this was a mode I did in a live performance. I called it Insect Face Mode. I was trying to like make like mantis faces and like cricket faces, ant faces, grasshopper faces, all kinds of stuff. So it goes from this kind of like geological thing into like, I don't know, Rorschach-y face modes. Other pretty fun stuff we can do with this. So now that we've got this into insect face mode, and we'll just do some insect faces on its own for a while, I can go into block 2 color EQ. I don't really have any saturation to start with. I'm in turn down the color EQ. I'm in HSB mode. Go into band 1 brightness and turn it all the way up. So now we have this sort of matte background. That looks pretty weird. So I'm going to turn brightness down a tad and then turn saturation up. So get a medium amount of saturation going on here. And let's bring that hue to a nice, pleasing, institutional green. There we go. Set up that, and then let me go into band 2. Let's see what we got. Band 2, we can make that, I'll keep band 2 kind of dark, but saturate it fully. And then let's make this, yeah, a little bit of violet going on here. Let's see, I'm not sure we have too many more bands to work with. Oh yeah, one more. Go into band 3 and then saturate that quite a bit as well. Yeah, let's make this a little bit orange, peachy. So now this is a pretty strange mode. Be able to kind of like adjust the amount of lines we have there, the width of the lines on the camera feedback over here. So sort of like, however blobbier the outline is, the more you get a little bit of that peach happening. So you can see a little bit of signal noise. I'm not using a ground loop isolator. This is something to keep in mind. Something I've discovered is using ground loop isolators. You can buy them on AliExpress or Amazon for like $5–10. Just looks like a little, you plug like a BNC in one side and a BNC out the other side. Using that for the analog captures for any of the devices I make will help remove any of that signal noise. It's not going to change that ringing you see. The ringing is happening because of all the filtering I'm doing on the line. Alright, so this is pretty great here. Let's see. What's the next thing I want to do here and show y'all? Let's do some more mixing. We're not quite mixing enough here. We're just doing this straight up keying, but since we have this happening, we might as well do some feedback off of my head here. Got things framed up kind of nicely. So yeah, the other thing I was able to do in Gravity Waves is just take this video. So if I put it back where it was, it'd be like, oh, we can zoom in, zoom myself out. Let's put myself in the corner here. Move me around. Oh, there I'm over here. There I'm over here. Let's keep myself right in the corner here. This is, I think, pretty good framing for what I'm about to do with this setup. Let's go into, so let's do a little bit of kaleidoscoping on me. Actually, no, we're not going to do kaleidoscoping on me. We're going to do kaleidoscoping on some feedback. Let me go in, frame buffer 1, set the delay time here to like, I don't know, 18. Let's do some 18 delays. Let's go into key threshold. Actually, no. First, let's do some geometry just so we see where we're at. Displace X about 0.120. Go into key threshold. Leave it at black key. Let's make sure we're keying in the feedback the same amount I'm keyed out block 1 here. So now we've got my head going off to the side here. Now what I want to do is create some weird rotational stuff going on with the feedback to mix interestingly with this with the little insect wings I've got up in the corner here. And you can see if you just let it hang out, the feedback vector mode, the lines will get very, very close together and you get this interesting kind of moire pattern. You see in the corners of the wings here, the moire, where the lines are really close together, really, really nice. I'm glad that that pointing is propagating through the delay. Looks really good. So, keyed in the feedback, and now let's play around with geometry a bit. So, if we go into a kaleidoscope amount here, that's where I wanted to kaleidoscope some things. So I want to kind of, let's do, so this looks like, yeah, let's do some 7-way. And I'm going to play around with kaleidoscope slice until it picks up on my head here. I might need to speed up the delay time just to see what's going on. So, delay time at 1, and let me just keep turning kaleidoscope slice around. Kaleidoscope slice is basically kind of rotates around and selects what part of the screen are you going to be kaleidoscoping from. So it's like, if you have the kaleidoscope and you are able to sort of like rotate it without rotating the buffer itself. So I'm able to do this kind of stuff. So now my face and my hands are going to be the sort of seeds for this kaleidoscope movement here. We've got some X displace going on. And let me turn the delay time back up to, I think we were at 18. So now things will kind of propagate a lot more. And the X displace is kind of making it like go into the center. So you can tell at this point we've sort of lost where we were at. We can't see because I was just keying the mix in instead of mixing like using one of the blending modes. So, but we can use a blend mode and a key at the same time in Gravity Waves. So if I go back into block 3, final mix and key, and change to difference mode, and let's just bring that all the way up to 0.5, so that's like sort of full, and let's start to mix some things in here. So you can see why I sort of selected the colors the way I did. When you do this kind of like difference mode blending, it's nice to have them sort of like the same color, basic color scheme, whether or not, whichever way you're at in terms of the, what do you call it, whether you're in a light portion or a dark portion. Let's go back into the colorizer and tweak things up a bit. So block 2 parameters. I think it's probably going to be nice if we keep this, let's try keeping this dark, background dark, but keep the other colors the way we had them. I'm looking a little blown out here. So final mix and key, I'm not going to mix this quite so hard, or actually maybe I should mix it a little harder. Invert, or actually probably what I want to do, I feel like I'm a little blown out right now. My feedback's a little blown out. Two things I want to do. I'm going to go back into block 2. That's where the kaleidoscoping feedback is at. Is it? Oh no, block 2 is where the camera feedback is at. Block 1 is kaleidoscoping feedback, and I'm going to do Z displace as well. So now we'll get some crazy Alex Gray things happening here. That's pretty nice. And I'm going to set up a couple of LFOs. So we'll just LFO the Z a bit. Oh yeah, and that's one of the other pretty crazy things about gravity waves is I put LFOs on basically every single parameter, so you can automate just about everything. Oh, I really like how there's like a mouth in my forehead when you look at the repeating things here. That's pretty excellent. It's still a little bright, so I'm going to go back into parameters, and I want to just have this kind of fade out as it goes, as the feedback propagates down. So we'll start with kind of like take bright attenuation, and turn that down, and then let's just kind of bring it up a little bit until it gets to a place where I like it. So I want to be able to kind of like have this staged up. So I've got the weird blobby talking head kaleidoscope on the outside with the insect faces on the inside. Alright, yeah, this is pretty fucking insane already. And now let's go into block 3 and let's do color processing on my face. Let's do some color EQ over here. So I'm going to do RGB color processing. So turn the color EQ on, make sure HSB RGB switch is turned on. That means it's on RGB mode. And I'm just going to go, so I feel like the brightest bands, you can see my cheeks here and my forehead are kind of a little blown out. If I put my hand here, that's partially to do with the lighting I've got. I'm leaning in a little too much. So I want to fix that. I'm going to pull down the green, so I'll make that a little purplish. Pull down the blue a tiny bit, pull down the red a little bit. So kind of have it normal, but I kind of want it to be a little strangely pink and purple too. That's pretty good. And then let's go up to band 3. I'll turn up the green, turn up the blue, so we get some strange kind of like neon yellowish things happening. So my beard is now nice and mossy. And let's go to band 1. That's the darkest band, of course. And let's make this a little aqua. So I'm going to turn up the blue and turn up the red. That was a little too sudden. Yeah, I think that's going to work out too well. Maybe band 2. Ooh, that looks pretty nice. Okay. Put some more aqua in the darkness here. This is pretty bananas already. And then let me go in and just in block 1 LFO, I'm going to modulate some of these colors here. So we'll modulate down the red and green in band number 5, modulate up blue, so that'll get a little bit of psychedelic hue shifting here. And then we'll modulate some colors in band 4 as well. I haven't really adjusted those. So you can see the modulating colors. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that at the moment. So now we have some highly psychedelic things happening here. Pretty fun. This is looking pretty good to me. I want to go in, tweak the feedback of block 1 a little bit more. Let's go into frame buffer 1 filters. I want to blur things a little bit. I want things to be a little bit more blurred up here. Let me get this camera feedback, make it a little smaller again. Put that kind of right in the center. Alright, that looks pretty nice. Get those eyes going on there. So got that framed pretty nicely. So turned up the blur. Let's give it just a tiny bit of sharpen. I always like, whether my goal is to make things more blurry or more sharp, I always use a little bit of both blur and sharp in my filtering, because if I want things to be blurred but also have a nice edge, I'll do a larger number for blur and then just a tiny amount for sharp, and maybe turn up sharp radius to like 0.1. So that makes things kind of blur together but not become completely indistinct. And the same thing, if I'm going to sharpen things a lot, I do want to add a tiny bit of blur, otherwise it can get a little too crispy. The patterns and the feedback can get a little intense. Alright, one set of final things I want to do here. So I'm going to go back into block 3. So what I want to do is add some motion. Actually, no. Let's go into block 1. Let's add some motion. Let's rotate around. Let's see. Go to frame buffer 1 LFO, Geo LFO 1, and let's rotate the feedback here. So this is going to do things differently. Oh, and let's make that a little bit smaller. Rate 0.2. So that'll do things a little bit smaller for the rotation. And actually, no, we want to turn that up a little bit. So that's going to kind of bring in and out where so before where it was just my face kind of feeding into that the whole time, now it's going to kind of like grab little bits and pull different amounts of that in and out. So we got that nice rotation thing happening. This is a little fast for me. Let's see. You know, I like to do things slow. So let's just keep this kind of slow. Now let's go into block 3, and let's see, go into block 1 LFO, Geo LFO 1, let's rotate block 1 LFO 2. So now you see that's just like rotating everything. And you can see we're getting some weird kind of aspect ratio things on the rotation here. I'm going to go into geometry and block 1 geometry and do the different rotate mode, and that will keep aspect ratio as we rotate. So you'll be able to do a rotation without kind of squeezing things. For the feedback, most of the times we want to do rotations without squeezing things. You can see it squeezes my face. So it's a question of, does it lose your aspect ratio as you rotate things, or does it keep it? But yeah, so here's a pretty nice mode, and now I'm going to do some more painting with this camera feedback stuff. And here we go. So this is an example of a couple of different things I've done for live performances. I usually don't put my face in here. Usually what I'm doing is mixing camera feedback with liquid lights, because I've also been getting into the liquid light stuff, and being able to mix liquid lights with incredibly long delays and the camera feedback, especially using this difference mixing, is kind of where it's at for me these days. extra psychedelic. Yeah, let's go back. So we had been playing around with the colorizer on the insect face mode here. Block 2 parameters. Let's see what happens if we bring up band 1 again now. That's pretty bright. Not a big fan of how that looks. Keep it sort of a little bit, not completely black. Give it a tiny bit of like, so if we take band 1, and I'm going to take brightness and leave it at like 0.12, have saturation up a little bit, because we're difference mixing here, and then I think if I just go into block 2 LFO and have the hue modulate for this one, we'll get some interesting effects. It'll be very subtle, but because we're difference mixing, it'll do some pretty cool stuff with how the blending happens. If I'm just have like dark but super saturated, and then also have it be on difference mixing mode, should be pretty fun. And now we're getting some pretty ridiculous galactic nonsense happening here. This looks like some animations from like a VST that's trying to be like planetary. It's a very specific reference, I know, but I'm sure some of you have played with like some kind of VSTs that like try to look like planet stuff. We got a little bit of a heart situation going on here. Yeah, this is very, very busy. Just the way I like it. Slow down one of these rotations here. So which one of these rotations is going so fast? Slow it down. There we go. I like that. Oh yeah, speaking of rotate mode, I can show you what happens when I switch up rotate mode on the feedback. Frame buffer 1, go into geometry and select rotate mode, go the other way. You can see, actually, yeah, this looks pretty good too. Usually you don't want to do it, but depending on what kind of setup you have, I think with Kaleidoscope it looks pretty great a lot of the time. It just changes the aspect ratio of how the rotation is done. Is the rotation done in a sort of like one-to-one manner, or is the rotation done in the aspect ratio of your screen, your frame buffer itself? I'm just going to pull my face out for a second and do some handwork. Yeah, this is some pretty nice installation stuff happening here. Let's see. Yeah, there's a bunch more stuff we could do this mode, but it's already pretty busy, so I don't think we need to like add too much more. But this would be something, this basic setup would be something I would probably set up an entire show around, and just kind of like build up from one part to another. But that's kind of like, for those of you who are using gravity waves out here, that's just kind of how I do it, is try not to get like, just kind of pick like 2 things, like 1 input for each thing that's like, that's just going to be a fixed thing, and then like find sort of the craziest way I can do it, and then figure out how do I want to mix between them, and like figure out how to like go from more simple ways to the more simple to the more complicated. I do like how it's taking my shirt and doing feedback off of it. It says dream right there. So we're getting some dream feedback. And I guess one more thing which you could do with this setup, if you're feeling spicy, is take the camera and point it at the screen and do some extra fractally stuff. So we're going to get fractalized fractals in the corner here. Yeah, that's a little bit too noisy. hard to do the camera feedback with the colorizing the way it is right now. But yeah, so it's a little, there's a little like teaser tutorial for like some stuff in gravity waves. I suppose for most people they would want to see the GUI in there. This is kind of why I did the so many tutorials in the manual as is, because it's just like it's already busy enough to like just show you the output. If I also show you the GUI, I also literally either have to like rewrite how gravity waves works or have two capture devices around. I think if you just like go through and try out the exercises in the manual, give them a shot, you'll find out how useful they actually are, and realize that like the video stuff isn't going to be as helpful for you here. I find video tutorials where you have a GUI is like kind of a huge pain in the ass and a lot slower than actually just like reading where do I find the thing and just go alter it. It's like I've been doing a lot more like Adobe programs things lately, and it's like I'm always just like I'm super frustrated when I'm like, how do I do this one thing and all I can find is like a video showing me. And it's like 5 minutes and it's like literally just tell me what parameter to touch to click on. Don't show me a video that's just click on one thing, drag it down, and you're there, because it's like 4 minutes of video to do that instead of just like reading something for like 5 seconds. It's like the recipe things. It's like I do not want to watch a video for a recipe. I just want what do I put into the food and what order do I do it in. I don't want to watch a video where you talk about like hubby's favorite food to eat in Tuscany and like mixing everything in real time. Well, I guess I'm mixing everything in real time here. But yeah, gravity waves, if I haven't completely alienated you by the end of this video, perhaps you're interested in purchasing gravity waves. If you're watching this in between the months of November and December in 2023, you can also visit my website, andrejcreativecoding.com, and find out information on how to build your own DIY style. Not as easy as building a wave pool, but it's definitely doable. I know many people who have without any assistance from me whatsoever. So definitely give it a shot if you feel so inclined. And yeah, hopefully I'll be able to make a couple more of these videos, instructional, tutorial, promotional, edutainment-tainable, pretty soon. Alright, as always, have fun. I would say let me know in the comments, but honestly, I don't read the comments anymore. There's too many comments everywhere. I can't really read all of the comments that exist in all of my social media posts anymore. Apologies to everyone who writes comments. Just email me. I do respond to all the emails. I had to just choose one. Just emails. Can't respond to comments everywhere else. So if you can put together enough effort to like email me something, I'll definitely get back to you at some point. But yeah, as always, have fun and see you next time.